It's a Funny Business. Ask John Inman.
I was in Bournemouth, and also appearing in Bournemouth was the lovely June Whitfield. And we were asked to open some garden fete or other, and they were very nice people. They said, we'll send a car for you, which they did, and the car drew up, and sitting in the back of this car was June in her I am now going to open a fete outfit. She'd got the lot on. She'd got the feathers in the hat and the thing and the lovely suit and everything. And I was in my fete opening outfit. And we got into the back of this huge white car, which I sort of twigged that it was a wedding car, because all the back seat was covered in plastic flowers. And we sat there nattering, saying, how are you, and how's business, and is it all right? And this driver with this peak cap and everything, and the uniform, turned round and he said, would you like some music while we're driving? So we said, yes, that'll be very nice, thank you. And there was this big introduction coming from two speakers, which we didn't recognise immediately, until suddenly it went, tam, tam, da-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. And it was a jazzed-up version of the wedding march. She said, oh, my God, when we arrive there, they'll think we've just got married.
I've always wanted the opportunity to thank BBC television producer and comedy writer David Croft for bringing into our lives many talented comedy people who, without his eagle eye, may have remained undiscovered on the lower rungs of the show business ladder. David Croft's casting in his programmes Dad's Army, It Ain't Half Hot Mum, Heidi High, Hello Hello, and Are You Being Served has been inspired. And possibly one of his greatest bits of talent spotting was John Inman. John's outrageous characterisation of Mr. Humphreys has made him a household name. But I encourage him to tell me about the years which led to that success. So join me for the next half hour as John Inman hopefully proves it's a funny business. John, is your career a case of 10 years of hard work to become an overnight success?
Oh, well, most certainly, yes. Mind you, I would say 20 years. 20 years of working here and there, and then all of a sudden I emerged from behind a counter, and everybody knew who I was.
You arrived.
I arrived, yeah. You see, I'd done some bits of television, but I'd always been covered up with moustaches and glasses and flat caps. And I used to draw wrinkles on. Now I have to blot them out. I spent quite a lot of time at the Labour Exchange, like I'm sure a lot of my colleagues did, you know. I started off when I left school with a rep company with Jack Rose repertory players at the South Pier, Blackpool, sweeping up and making tea and moving scenery and stealing props and begging props and things like that.
Did you play parts?
I did play. I played little boys, yeah. You see. Well, they're very few and far between, yes. Little boy parts, because I was very little. You know, I mean, as you will admit, I am sitting here 50 years old and I only look 23. I mean, so you can imagine how young I looked then. So really, parts were not available. And my mum said her wonderful phrase, John, why don't you get yourself a proper job? You know.
Did that go with you all your life?
Oh, yes, it's a famous phrase of hers, yes. Why don't you get yourself a proper job? She doesn't say it now, mind you.
I had no idea that the South Pier at Blackpool did have a repertory company. Was it did. In the winter?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was a winter rep run by a fellow called Jack Rose. And then after he left the South Pier and he went to the Royalty, which is a little tiny cinema by the bus station, or was, and converted it back into a theatre. I wasn't with them then. I'd disappeared then to London. I'd tied the spotted hanky to the walking stick, you know, and set forth where the streets were paved with gold, and I became a window dresser.
Can I ask you where your mother was based now?
Obviously, in Blackpool.
You were born in Blackpool?
No, I was born in Preston. I moved to Blackpool with my family when I was 12. So really, I was brought up in Blackpool with all the summer shows going on. You know.
And was that the appeal? Was it just the magic of the footlights, the plush seats, the velvet curtains?
Well, yes, it was. But it wasn't so much Blackpool. It had started before then. My dad had a hairdresser's shop in Preston, and he had an advert on the screen, you see, at the interval. Yes. So we used to get comps for First House Monday. And I used to dash home from school, wouldn't eat my tea because I was eaten up with nerves. I mean, I was riddled with terrible butterflies and stomachache and nerves just going to the theatre with the excitement of it. I remember it now, you know, not being able to eat my tea as though it was my own first night.
When you're on the pantomime stage, which I've seen you, and I must say you are remarkably good in pantomime.
Thank you.
When you take the kids on stage with you to do that regular spot, the song sheet, you're marvellous with them. Maybe you're feeling for them a bit.
Well, yes. You see, the very first pantomime I went to, I naturally don't remember it, but my mother relates this story, that I was carried out before the overture struck up, screaming and shouting. So yes, I do feel. I do feel for the kids. They are so easily frightened. There's two sides to them. You see, they desperately want to get up there, but at the same time they don't. And I think Mum and Dad want them to get up there as well. But you know, you have to be very careful. You're treading a very fine line with them. Yes.
I think there's quite a bit of Mum and Dad wanting, or certainly Mums wanting them to get up there.
Oh yes. Now you see, my mum was the complete opposite. When I was doing anything at school, I used to say, "Aren't you coming to see the concert?" And my mum used to say, "I'm not coming to watch you make a fool of yourself." So that has kept me very sort of level-headed about it. But they say such wonderful, wonderful things. I had a little boy, not this year, last year, in little grey trousers, and I started to see the dark patch growing in the grey trousers, you see, with the nerves. So I said, "You all right?" He said, I want to go to the toilet." So I said, "Yes, I thought you did." So he started to go down the stairs, this little lad, and I said, "Oh, there's no need to go down there. We've got a toilet here, you see." Because I didn't want to lose him, because he was good. So I beckoned the fairy on, and I said, "Would you take this young man to..." And he snatched his hand away from her and from me, and he said, "I'm not going to the toilet with a fairy." Well, it just pulled the place apart. No, they're smashing.
That's terrific. We've jumped ahead a bit, John, like we tend to do. But
yeah.
So you left Blackpool.
Oh, well, I left Blackpool
to get a proper job.
I did, and I got a job with Austin Reed's, actually, in Regent Street. And I stayed with them for a couple of years. But it wasn't right. I mean, I had a very good job, and if I'd stayed there, if I was still there now, I would have an excellent job.
You could have been head of windows.
Oh, yes, indeed, yes. I'm sure I could. But it wasn't what I wanted to do. And a mate of mine that I'd met down there was taking a rep company to Crewe, and they hadn't got a scenic artist. So I said, "Well, I'm a scenic artist. I'll come and paint the sets." I mean, I had painted the odd set, but I mean, I wasn't a scenic artist with a stamp on his book and everything to say I am a scenic artist. Which I did do for 10 weeks in Crewe. And about the second or third week, they were doing an Agatha Christie called Spider's Web. And they hadn't enough people. So not only the stage manager and everybody had to play a part, but the scenic artist was roped in to play a part as well, you see. And I played a 65-year-old JP called Hugo Birch. And I got wonderful notices for it. I also nearly got the sack because I hadn't learnt that you don't do comedy business while somebody else is speaking, you see. That was one of my first lessons in the theatre, just to keep still while it's somebody else's turn. But that's how it started. It sort of snowballed from there. I decided I didn't like being a scenic artist because it's a very dirty job. So I became stage manager. And then I started to go from rep company to rep company. And, as I say, chunks of labour exchange in between. But I'd always been a bit nifty with a needle. So, during the labour exchange periods, I used to make costumes and things. So you could say, really, although I have been out of work, I've really never been out of work. I've always done something. I still say now, if everything fails, I would become a wardrobe mistress, you know, just for the pleasure of walking through the stage door and nobody saying, "Hey, you, are you, where are you going?" You know. That's very important to me.
During this time, did you have any particular idols who you admired?
Oh, yes, I did, yes. Everybody, of course, came to Blackpool, didn't they, you see?
Via Preston?
Well, via Preston, yes. Via the Broadhead circuit.
Indeed.
I saw things like Happy Drome with Harry Corris, Robbie Vincent and Cecil Frederick. I'd heard it on the radio. I was an avid listener to Happy Drome. What always fascinated me was the tap dancing on the radio. It's rather like being a ventriloquist on the radio or a juggler, isn't it? Because Robbie Vincent was a very good tap dancer.
Yes.
And it wasn't until you went to the theatre they were playing, in my case, which was the Palace at Preston, that you actually did see him wallop, and he really could do it. But you never knew whether it was the drummer doing it or not. That's on the wireless, yes, did you?
It's true.
But they were a great trio, and very, very popular. I mean, packed houses when they did actually go out on the halls.
Thank you, lads, and now it's our turn. I want to introduce the peerless, the perfect, the marvellous...
Did you call me, Governor?
No, I didn't, but since you're here, we can do our turn, so don't go away.
Oh, well, before we start, Governor, do you know the difference between a cat and a modern girl?
No, what's the difference between a cat and a modern girl?
Well, a cat has 9 lives, but a girl dies once a week.
Oh, I'll tell him. Where is he? Come here, Mother's Ruin.
Let me tell you!
Oh, stop that or I'll give you the clout for nout. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Why is a modern girl like a frog?
I don't know.
Well, a modern girl dies once a week, but a frog croaks every night. Oh, what's the use? Give us a note, Ernie. It's our trio.
We three in Happy Drome, working for the BBC. Ramsbottom and Enoch and me. We three, we're not highbrow, just a set of works maybe. Ramsbottom and Enoch and me. 3 North Country comics, 3 hard-working comics with a job to do. We bring you a tonic, for laughter's a tonic, and just let me tell you, we three, we may sound daft, that's what we're supposed to be. Ramsbottom and Enoch and me.
We're old country comics, we're north country comics with a job to do.
Lovely lyrics, aren't they?
Aren't they marvellous? Yes, it goes on and on and on. Just let me tell you.
That's it.
Yes, smash it. No, they were great favourites of mine. Another great favourite of mine, and this happened like a few years later, because on the North Pier at Blackpool, Lawrence Wright's On With the Show was a great comic called Albert Modley.
Oh.
And I used to go many, many times, you know, to see him do his drum kit act and his little boy act with the aeroplane and the vicar coming to tea and whatnot. I loved all that. He was an idol. And as I sort of progressed through from rep company to rep company, I actually got a very good job for 2 wonderful people called George and Alfred Black.
Oh, indeed.
Who, I mean, I was floating then, you know, and I got a tremendous amount of money as well. I got £25 a week, which was fortunes, in a play called What a Racket for the summer season at Scarborough. And Albert Modley, to my great delight, he played my father. I should say, really, I played his son, because it was his show. And my mother was Betty Jamel.
Oh, lovely. Who worked with Norman Evans.
Who worked with Norman Evans an awful lot, yes. Follow, 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 the many, many pipes of pen.
A pint size.
That's right, tiny little lady, but a bundle of... I think that was her billing or something, a bundle of fun, was it?
Right, I think it was.
She was wonderful, and he was marvellous to me. I learnt another lesson, actually, through that. I had a scene with Albert. Albert was cleaning my shoes, because I was about to become a pop singer, you see, and Dad was out of work. That was the whole theme of the play. And he was cleaning my shoes, and we had a little scene. He used to say, "Oh, laddie, you can't go on like this. What are you going to be in a couple of years' time?" And my line was, 18, Dad. And he used to clout me with the brush, you see, that he was cleaning the shoes with. And purely instinctively, I was standing about 2 feet upstage, which meant that Albert had to twist his neck round to look at me, to say the line. And Alfred Black was watching the rehearsal. And he said, "John, come here a minute." He said, "Now, we're paying Mr. Modley an awful lot of money. A lot more money than we're paying you. And we don't want to see the back of his neck. We want to see his face. So just come downstage a little bit." And that was another wonderful lesson, which I've never, ever forgotten. We were at the Arcadia in Scarborough, which was right on the promenade. And Albert's curtain speech was, "Well, I hope you've enjoyed yourselves. Now, when you go out tonight, either turn right or turn left. Don't go straight ahead, because you'll go with water." Wonderful man.
I was that excited when I saw, well, they're going crackers in Morecambe, they've discovered sand. So I thought, I'll get away a bit. And I'm coming on here, Oxford Street, and I knocked an old fella down. I couldn't help it. As I knocked him down, I shouted, "Look out!" He said, "Why are you coming back?" He was very playful. You don't think, do you? And I keep looking around to see if I know anybody. I know her, but my eyes aren't too good. I think as you get a bit older, your eyes do get weaker. Mine are. I keep running into pubs. I don't want them altering. I was coming out at Royal Ten, and I bumped into the vicar. The vicar. Oh, he says, "I'm sorry to see you coming out of there." So I went back in again.
Thanks to Albert Modley, really, George and Alfred Black started to look after me. So I started on the summer farce with a name comic, top of the bill.
Who was?
Well, Sid James.
Yes.
I worked with
Yes.
quite a bit. And I was sort of useful to feed and get a few laughs myself. You know, that was really the situation I was
Playing
in.
outrageous characters.
That's right. I played his daft son for a long time in Wedding Fever, Sid James's son. And then I used to talk like that and say, "Oh, no, Mr. James, no, I'm not sure that I want to marry your Shirley." You know, I mean, it was one of those sort of situations. I once said to him, actually, because I did a little bit where a neighbour had come in to borrow a cup of tea out of the tea caddy, the nosy neighbour. And this cup of dry tea was left on the table, you see, when I arrived to court the girl. And Mum, it was a lady called Beryl Mason, said, "Oh, well, sit down. Would you like a cup of tea?" And one night I looked at this cup in front of me, full of tea, dry tea. And I said, "Oh, thank you very much. Do you think I could have a drop of water with it?" Off my own bat. Now, I was terrified, you see, because it got a belting laugh.
That was your first ad-lib.
Oh, yes. And I was terrified. And I came off And I said to Sid, I said, I'm awfully sorry, I hope you don't mind. I said, but it was just sitting there and I had to say something. He says, I don't mind. You do whatever you like. You get as many laughs as you like. He said, you're a very good actor. I'm a very good reactor. So he said, you do it, I'll pull a face and get another one. And it was a lovely relationship, and we worked together many years, and we went to South Africa together and, travelled a bit. I was very lucky in doing 7 big Delphont pantomimes. I mean, I'd done the little ones along the way,
Yes.
but it was very exciting when suddenly you're doing a Delphont pantomime with a lot of scenery and
A lot of costumes.
a lot of costumes and a big orchestra.
A lot of wardrobe mistresses.
Yes. Oh yes, that was a very exciting part.
Throughout all this, John, the great British public didn't really know you.
No, they didn't, because I didn't go into their front rooms
Exactly, yes.
every week. But I was, during this time, I was working quite well. I did a summer season every year, and I did a pantomime every year. It was just those bits in between, that were missing. I was at Coventry doing Cinderella, one of my favourite Cinderellas. It was directed by Freddie Carpenter, and it starred Mike Yarwood as Buttons and David Nixon as the Baron, and Barry and myself as Ugly Sisters. It was a wonderful production, and the week before we finished that production, I got a script from David Croft saying, this is a comedy playhouse. How do you feel about playing Mr. Humphreys? He's on page 4 and page 8 and page 9. Have a read at it, and it's just a week's work, you see. I said, yes, I would do it. And I went along to rehearsals, and there was this wonderful cast of Molly Sugden, Frank Thornton, Trevor Bannister, Wendy Richard. And I stood in the middle of all these people, and I was the only one I'd never heard of. I mean, because I'd seen all these people on the television, you see. And I was very much in awe. And we did a pilot. And it was forgotten about. It was just a week's work, really. And so the summer season and the pantomime went on. And I got a phone call. I was in Blackpool playing Jack Douglas's father-in-law. You see, we're back to the tash and glasses again. You know, I mean, I was playing this 108-year-old, and I got a call saying, I think we're going to do 5 of them. Are you still interested? And of course I was. I thought, what a nice idea to get on the television properly, you know. And of course the rest is history as far as that's concerned. I mean, it all ran for 14 years, and but it did enable me to do other things. Like,
It didn't run for 14 years, did it?
oh yes, Are You Being Served? We're now in the 15th year.
Good grief.
of Are
That
You Being
surprised
Served.
me.
Yes, yes. Oh yes, it's a very long time. I'm just wondering where it's all gone.
You don't look a day older.
No, well, Mr. Humphreys got younger. Actually, he started off quite old. He got younger.
Tell me about that lovely man, Arthur Brough.
Oh, what a beautiful man he was. Well, he was a sort of daddy of the company. He played Mr. Granger.
Mr. Granger.
Yes,
He was lovely, wasn't
He was. He was irreplaceable.
He had
They
that one
tried.
essential quality. He had such repose.
Yes. Well, it was. I think it was laziness. Laziness and pink gin. At 11 o'clock every day, while we were rehearsing, no matter whether he had lines in the script or not, he used to say to Trevor Bannister and I, it's 11 o'clock, and the hostelry is open. This is for medicinal purposes only. I'm just going away. So he would disappear from the rehearsal room. Now, if we came up to his entrance, Trevor and I used to get the director, which was, in those days, it was David Croft himself used to direct, and we would find a query in the script and say, David, Shall I say this line, or do you think it would be better if Trevor had it and I had the other line?
Delaying tactics.
They were delaying tactics until little Arthur waddled back into the room, having had his pink Plymouth, you see. Because that's what he used to drink. And this went on for quite a long time. And I don't think David sussed at all, until one day it was absolutely pouring with rain. And we'd done this. He dashed out of the rehearsal room to the pub, and he came back soaked to the skin. And David says, "You've been to that pub, haven't you, you old so-and-so?" It was really sweet. He was a lovely, lovely man.
Yes, he always seemed that. But suddenly, fan mail is now coming your way.
Oh, yes, yes. Well, Mr. Humphreys, you know, from 4 lines in the pilot, suddenly blossomed forth and was written up and written up and written up and
was the butt of everybody's joke.
That's right. And because of all that, I've been round the world 3 times. I've been to Australia 5 times to work, and he's very popular everywhere. The lovely thing is now that people do say, "Oh, look, that's John Inman," which is very gratifying, because you can be in a television series and only be known by the character you're playing. I've been lucky to escape Mr. Humphreys. I've been able to do many, many other things because of him, and I'm very grateful to him.
Whoever he is.
Yes, that mincing fool.
John, it's been a great pleasure talking to you and reminding us the stories of a John Inman maybe the listeners didn't know about.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed it very much. Is it over then now?
It is over.
Is that it?
Yes.
Oh, hey.
Has it passed quickly? Would you like to come back again?
Oh, I will. We'll start with the concerts in the backyard when I was 3 next time.
We never mentioned those, did we? Thank you, John. I hope you've enjoyed listening at home. If you have, join me the same time next week. Until then, Mike Craig saying bye-bye.